Hello, my name is Rian van Square and I would like to welcome you to the Business Travel 360 podcast In Conversation With, where we speak with travel industry movers and shakers that are transforming business travel. This podcast is designed so that you can gain insights into the company they represent and learn how they are capitalizing on the future of travel. In this episode, we have the privilege of speaking with John Mangelaars, the CEO at Travelport. I reached out to Travelport to ask for this interview since not many people know that much about John. And as we are such a nosy bunch in the industry, I thought it would be good to simply talk to John and find out more. Just to start the conversation then, John, thank you so much for agreeing for the interview with me today. I really appreciate it. You are in London, right? So are you feeling the heat?
Yeah, I'm feeling the heat both physically and emotionally. So yeah, it's all good.
Don't worry, we'll be easy on you in this conversation. It literally is in conversation with, so it's going to be quite informal. So my first question to you, which is really the basis of the whole thing, is, can we find out more about who is John? Where are you from? Where do you live now? And do you like cats or dogs?
Oh, I love my dog. I have a Dutch passport. I grew up in the south of the Netherlands, like north of Antwerp, so I'm a little bit more Belgian than Dutch. I started working for Microsoft very early on, like in the MS-DOS days, because I believed like the personal computer and actually the software on the personal computer was going to change the world. So I decided to go to Microsoft. It was like number 3,000 in the world or something. And I've always been into like building cool stuff with great people. I moved from the Netherlands to Paris, then Paris I did US, Microsoft, came back to Holland, became the country manager, went back to the US, went back to London, went back to Holland, and then I came back to London. So I've been moving sort of my whole life. I got two kids. One is 28 and lives in New York as a startup. One is 25 and has a degree in biochemical engineering and is looking at finding a job. Happily married already for many years. And I got a dog, a Weimaraner, which I love. The dog has always been traveling with us. We have it driven around to the place where we go. Weimaraner, if you don't know her, then it's a mix between like a family dog, very loyal, but also a working dog. They go hunting and stuff like that.
So I'll tell you a secret. I grew up, we always had two big dogs outside and one dog inside and a few other animals lying around. The one dog that I can vividly recall that I grew up with was also a Weimaraner mix. It wasn't pure Weimaraner, but he had a Weimaraner mix. And I just love that dog myself. I guess you can get to take that dog swimming because if I recall right, the Weimaraners like the water, right?
Yeah. Like took it to the south of France to see the show go. It was like I think the German emperor, like when he passed away on his grave, was with my German is a bit rusty. Well, ich hätte viele Freunde. Nur eine ist mir geblieben, das war mein Hund. And the other Weimaraner. They're very loyal. They're a lovely dog.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for that. That's an interesting background. Lots of traveling. Now you are the CEO at Travelport. So What convinced you to take that job?
A couple of things. I'm always somebody that likes to go to a place where there's change happening. I mean, I think like area where we're in like is prime for change, not just like because of the distribution change in NDC and in the landscape, but also because of AI. And then from my background perspective, I've always been in Microsoft building like business platforms. And I've been on the B2B, B2C side, but mostly B2B, building these solution platforms with partners. And then on the travel side, I've been running an OTA and online travel agent. I've been the CEO of Skyscanner. So I've done the customer facing side and I've done the business platforms. The missing piece was right in the middle, which was the Travelport, the GDS part. And then transitioning it into an AI infrastructure. Combination of like fitting it into the mix of the puzzle and like the change. And then also still wanted to do it back to my American roots. And because we've lived in the US quite a bit and my kids grew up there and the owners are American. So I felt a bit coming home for me. And then also in being in the UK. So having that all like private setting, like being in the UK, American owners, the change, and then like the piece of the puzzle, it all came together. I wasn't planning on work again. Like I had a great time at Skyscanner, 4.5 years, did very well. Want to take a break. Then I got this phone call. I knew Travelport in my OTA days. And I thought like, this is just too good to pass on. So that's why I decided to start earlier and join Travelport.
Absolutely. There's a great mixture of reasons. Absolutely. I can see that. And you mentioned change a few times. And just on the starting blocks from the outside, I can see some changes because one of the first things you did when you started was disclosing more information about Travelport's financials than is even required from a company like yours. I love that. I love the fact that you did that, by the way. But why did you think this was important and what did you achieve with that?
I'm just by nature open and honest, and I just don't feel like I need to keep things out for myself that don't need to be kept for yourself. That's the sort of my principle. There's only one John, like one story. I sometimes PR people get a bit nervous when I do that because I don't really have a filter. On the financial side, I think that is part of the sharing with the world, like what kind of a company you are. You talk about your strategy, you talk about your product, you talk about what you have to offer customers and partners, but also how you're doing financially because it creates trust. I think there was not a lot of trust in the industry anymore around GDSs. So we felt, we want to talk about our financial health as well. We have a strong balance sheet, we have a strong EBITDA growth, and it was not worth hiding that. It comes from like a position of like openness and honesty. It's part of the mixed things you want to share as a business. And also we have a lot of partners that are like dependent on us. So they want to know if we're going to be around for another couple of years. And so that building that trust is a good thing to do.
I mean, I'm 100% in agreement with you there. Like I said, I really enjoyed the fact you did that. Yeah, well done for doing that. Keeping up with the change, I mean, you've recently announced your partnership with Cognizant and Anthropic. I read that announcement quite a few times, and I have to say, if I read between the lines, you're not just jumping into AI travel solutions, but you are wanting to use AI within Travelport to improve how you operate, build, and deliver. Did I read that right?
When you go one step back, our business will be driven by how much value you can bring to agents, whether it's an OTA, whether it's the TMC. For us to accelerate that value, we looked at like, how can we accelerate delivering that value? And of course, that is like you build more product yourself, which AI promised. But then we said like, how can we accelerate the value in our platform? And like AI enable it, the whole discussion about agentic AI. We said like, okay, we can take our time ourselves, but like, we're not going to be fast enough. So how do we leapfrog this? And that's why we got to like Cognizant and Anthropic. I think a great partner and a great tool to drive AI. I think the next wave is going to be how do we work with partners, not just to have a platform that has AI included, but also how do we help them drive their business faster forward? So how do we help TMCs to save costs in their call centers? How do we help OTAs to like improve their conversion, improve their yield? How do we help OTAs and TMCs to do interruption management and like when there's a snowstorm, for example? So there's foundation level is okay. How do we make our own developers more productive to develop more product? But the second thing is how do we leapfrog? How do we accelerate like working with Cognizant and Anthropic to build like the best platform on the planet and then take that platform into specific customer situations and become more of a solution sales organization that helps customers realize value from those platforms. And then the volume will follow because the volume will come from where the most value is created.
I really like that. Those are some serious partners as well. And I like that view that you have about adding value to the TMC.
Got to tell you a joke here. Like I was in a meeting once with Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer and Steven Sinofsky about like, and I requested like 1,500 salespeople. Gates turns to Sinofsky and says like, is your product so bad he needs 1,500 salespeople?
That's very good.
That's the whole point. Like if you build a great product, you invest in product and you can have like the solutions conversation about driving value for customers, that's where the magic happens.
My follow-up question after the Cognizant and Anthropic partnership. So as part of that announcement, you mentioned then that you will be delivering the first customer-facing capabilities even before the end of June. And then, to the surprise of many, with no offense, just our experience with GDSs to date, you actually did deliver on that promise and you announced Travelport trip services. Is this a new pace of delivery we can expect from Travelport?
Yeah, I think we're going from especially on the front end and the customer facing capabilities, we're going from this waterfall era to like cloud and then cloud AI. The trip service had been designed from the ground up for the cloud. So that's already there. Now we're like adding like AI enabled services as well. So yeah, this is a new era. And when you look at like the pace Anthropic is delivering features and functionality with, I think that's the pace we got to pick up as platform providers as well, which we will do. That's also why I'm a strong believer in like co-development. I don't think we have time anymore to say like, hey, we're going to develop a product and then we're going to give it to customers and then they can figure out what to do with it. I think we got to go to co-development, which is what we'll do. So we'll pick a few partners and to build the platform with together. That's my desired state. There's almost no release schedule anymore. It's like perpetual development together. And then you can build those features into the core platform and ship it out to the world. I think the leading stuff will have to come from like co-development that basically keep up with the pace of innovation.
I love it. And John, again, just saying no offense, that is so different from what we are used to hearing from GDS. So that's very refreshing. Can we just delve a little bit into that trip services announcement? I do want to get to the potential impact on commercials, but before I do that, in the article about this in the Travel Distribution News, they talked a little bit about the challenges that you face as a global organization to deliver one solution for all. And they mentioned, and I'm going to quote here, they mentioned a platform designed for the AI era is only as useful as the content it can surface for an agency in Lagos or Nairobi. What do you make of that? I'm curious to hear what your response is to that.
We're like active, I think, in 200 markets or something. The platform can be quite similar, but the content will be tailored. And the content is not just our content, but it's also like our partners' content, consolidated content. It's a blend of our core content and then specific content loaded on our platform by market. That's why we have also operators. We can have our markets. We work with operators to basically be able to tailor our offering. So I feel very good about like our global approach. For example, last night I had dinner with like somebody from Pakistan. I met with a guy that runs our business in Bangladesh. I spread my time very well across more exotic markets, like big markets, small TMCs, small OTAs, large TMCs, large OTAs, because I really want to make sure we build a platform that enables everybody. And we work close partnership with those players to make sure we do that in each market.
And then, as I mentioned, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the commercials here, because it looks to me, and I might be very wrong about this, but the platform could potentially open up different ways for the suppliers to engage with your distribution platform other than the traditional method. And that comes with an assumption then that there might be a different commercial model for that supplier, which will have an impact on the commercial relationship between Travelport and the subscriber. Personally view, just for your information, the current model is very wrong, but that's just my opinion. Is this an indication that the writing might be on the wall for that very, very traditional commercial model and that it's not fit for the era we live in, or am I looking at this too hastily?
I think it needs to adapt. It will adapt in some shape or form. When, that's the question. Like, that's all. These things take time. But when you look at how we earn money, you can probably go to like more performance-based models. If I do X, Y, Z for you, or if I build X, Y, Z for you, then I make X money. If you look at the other side, like the distribution side, where you distribute your content, you could consider like having like product as a service. Why don't we, for example, our search capability, why don't we license it out to like an OTA? That's all pretty wild thinking. People might jump out of the window when I bring this up, because we have so much other work to do. Like we have NDC going, because we have still a lot of work doing like normalizing NDC. We have low cost to normalize. We have Edifact that's still around. We have AI coming on the front end. We have AI coming on the back end. So there's so much work to be done. Can the industry absorb? That's offer and order, by the way. There's another one coming. All this change happening, it might be that as part of that change, there will be a new commercial models emerging. That might be the easiest way to do it, because if you're going to do it separately, there's going to be another piece of change, which is a commercial model. I suspect that as part of all these changes, you'll see like new commercial models being tested. That it needs to evolve is pretty clear to me. Like, yeah, is it urgent? Probably not. Will it happen? Probably yes.
Absolutely great view on that. So I'm in agreement. It sounds like you have a very healthy take on that. And I can draw back to your initial statement of saying you are focused on where you add value for the agent. And if you add value, you can earn from that. So absolutely, you can make a direct connection between those two. So sounds good. I don't want to bring the mood down, but the current state of travel and distribution specifically, it's complex, it's costly. I speak to a lot of agents every day. They tell me that it's more and more work they have to do for the same amount of earnings. They're finding it difficult to motivate staff and, have a nice day in the office. We see a lot of failed projects in our industry at the moment. It's not a pretty picture overall. Is there a silver bullet for our industry?
I would say everybody should focus on what they're good at. It's not like I want to be like negative, but for example, direct connects. It's just very complicated. If you want to do a direct connect, you basically want to build like a mini GDS. It's hard to do. We spend millions and millions of development time to do that, and like years and years of knowledge. My advice would be like, let's all focus on what we're good at. Like we're good at aggregation and like normalization and like AI enablement. And OTA is good at like working with customers and making sure the customers are happy. An airline is good at like flying people around. And so let's all focus on what we're good at, and let's not try to enter in each other's business, because it's just going to get complicated. I don't think it's a good use of money. And even like when you see, for example, the direct connects, there's a couple of large OTAs that can afford it because they're big enough. But most of the OTAs just can't afford it, especially now with AI, like the front end requirements. Like there's so much work to be done in the front end with AI. But like if you have to maintain the back end, you can only afford so many developers. If you have more, like then your profit goes down. I would say like let's all focus on what we're good at. Like we're building a great platform, a great enabling platform and infrastructure. Airlines focus on the customer experience and flying people around. OTAs and TMCs focus on servicing these customers and making sure that they're all happy. Then please invest in like core technology to make sure the platforms get better and can talk better to each other. I think that's what we should do, those two things.
I love that. Focus on what you're good at. I have had quite a few conversations with agents where they've gone down developing their own potential direct connections and they end up with, a realization that it is a lot of money, it is complex, and they don't actually want to be a software developer. They are actually not that. They end up being that because they've gone ahead with their own developments. And yeah, I love that you say that about airlines as well. I think there's a lot of skepticism from my side about offer order and, how airlines are not going to get that right because, again, focus on what you're good at. Let's not go down that rabbit hole about where we think the airlines are going to go. It kind of leads me up to just commenting on Deem. I mean, you recently sold Deem. If I listen to what you've just said, focus on what you're good at, is it a case of it was a distraction and you want to focus on what you're good at?
That's probably a fair summary. we were good at Deem as well. Like when you look at like sort of the stack, like with infrastructure, then you get like TMCs and like online booking tools. Then you get close to the customer, and like we really want to put all our energy in. Like I said, the point I made earlier on, like we want to focus on like building the great infrastructure, enabling with AI. And Deem is a great business, great team, good customer base, happy customers, just deserves more attention. I was worried that like we couldn't give that attention to Deem because of the fact that it's kind of a different company. It's a different DNA. And so I think it was fair to Deem to say like, hey, we're going to sell it and we found a great home for it. So it's all goodness.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you did find a good home for it. It is a great team and they seem to be all intact. So that's very good. Good luck to them then. My last question to you, apart from the obvious, and if we haven't mentioned it, maybe we should, but I'd like to hear from you. What do you think is Travelport's unfair advantage over your competitors?
We're big enough to matter and small enough to be fast.
I like that. Absolutely. I mean, I was going to say that from my point of view, you don't have the chains of hosting airlines. Could hold you back with regards to what you do and how fast you move. You went a bit higher than that, which is just you can move fast if you need to, and you're big enough to matter. So that's a great view as well.
Yeah, I think I can have my opinion. Like, I also appreciate, I think you have to be careful. Like, this is like John speaking sort of semi off the record, but of course it's on the record. But like, you have to be careful to say like, okay, PSS is a burden for Amadeus. They got a strategy, which is like a very broad strategy, and the PSS fits into that. We have a very focused strategy on like being an infrastructure platform for distribution. That's our strategy. That's our strength. So it's just a very different approach. It would be cheap for me to say like, oh, PSS is a burden, because for Amadeus it's not. Sure. Amadeus is like, it's part of their strategy, which is like they want to be soup to nuts for travel. A good strategy, and that makes them a very big company. Yeah. We don't want to be that. We want to be the best distribution platform from an infrastructure perspective, be leading in AI, and be driving as much value as we can with our partners as possible by being big enough to matter and small enough to be fast.
John, those were my questions. I mean, I did have another question, which was about your approach to partners, but you've answered that already, because you do talk about the fact that you believe more in partners. And that was a cheeky question for me because I am a partner to Travelport, but it's great to hear that you have that view that you should work together and not just on your own. So I don't have to ask that question.
Thank you.